Welcome. Here's a Chieftain that uses Searing Bond and Scorching Ray. It's a simple build that takes advantage of the provided Ascendancy keystones to deal fire damage over time, as Chieftains often tend to do. We're using a staff that allows us to accommodate an additional 6-link setup, so there are 2 major damage sources, both somewhat equal in damage output. We're using Scorching Ray and Searing Bond totems. They're very similar spells. Both deal burning damage, but one is cast via totems, and the other you have to channel yourself. It's a good combination as you can benefit from both simultaneously. Use Scorching Ray to deal with most encounters. It's overall not an exceptionally great build, but excellent for its price nonetheless. Especially its defenses make it worth your consideration as it's quite durable. It has an extraordinarily high block chance combined with high armor and rapid life regeneration. You may not even need a life flask. It's an extremely cheap build. There are multiple inexpensive unique items that you can wear until you're ready to afford much better, rare counterparts. That makes it great for a starter build or even an SSF1. You can deal with most of the bosses in the game while saving for a better build. Searing Bond is the totem spell. Placed totems have a fiery beam linking them and the character, damaging opponents standing between you or your totems. Scorching Ray 2 deals burning damage in a straight line. You can channel it to deal ramping up damage against tough enemies. For survivability, the build employs a high life pool, endurance charges, armor, capped block chance for spells and attacks, and life regeneration. It's all tied together with Valico Keystone. Tazalio makes gearing up cheaper and provides yet another defensive layer. Clear speed is not as bad as it might seem. The Scorching Ray's burn lingers for a short time. Single target damage is not very high, a few million DPS at most. The price is as low as you can get. We've made it the unique selling point of the build. You won't have to buy any listed unique items, but Skin of the Lord's body armor and Legacy of Fury boots seems like the best in slot items. Skin may be the most expensive item here. Rimner's Resolve helmet has relatively good stats, perfectly suited for this build. It increases damage and grants immunity to chill and freeze. The Searing Touch is one of the cheapest staves in the game. It has all the modifiers you need: extra gem levels, fire damage, and burning damage. Skin of the Lords is an expensive option. It has to have the right sockets as you can't change them later. It's pretty much used only for the +2 to level of socketed gems and a bit of extra armor. It adds a lot of smoothness if you pick one with Call to Arms keystone. We recommend Legacy of Fury footwear. Scorched enemies have lower elemental resistance and explode on death. The movement speed and armor bonuses are great. Exof's Blood is not particularly great, but if you can't afford a good rare amulet, get this one instead. Its most impactful qualities are increased maximum life and the ability to cover enemies in ash. If your other ring is Elder influenced, we would recommend Mark of the Shaper. It massively increases spell and elemental damage. It summons volatile anomalies and increases maximum life, which is good. Malevolence's extra damage over time multiplier is the best aura mod to seek on a Watcher's Eye. Determination doesn't have any good ones. Gearing up is easy. If you've played Righteous Fire build before, you should be familiar with the basic principles of such build. You won't deal ignite or ailment damage. Seek burning damage, which is called fire damage over time too, they're the same thing. Skill gem level is also important, but that's an expensive stat to aim for. For defenses, seek maximum life, resistances, armor, life regeneration, and block chance. There's not much to look for on a helmet, just the basic life and resistances. If you can afford something more extravagant, get chaos resistance and mana reservation efficiency too. The most important qualities to seek in a rare staff are increases to gem levels and generic burning damage bonuses. It's relatively easy to get a staff that'd increase the gem level of fire spells by 3 or even 5. Regenerate 25 mana per second while any enemy is in Righteous Fire or Scorching Ray. Crucible mod fixes all your mana issues, but it may be unavailable after patch 3.21, so we offered other alternative methods of dealing with those. Rare body armor. There, we encourage gathering maximum life and resistances of all kinds. Life regeneration, armor, and increased effect of auras can also be impactful. Rare boots do not offer a lot of useful modifiers. Besides maximum life and elemental resistances, get the movement speed prefix. Gloves should provide the basic maximum life and resistances. Try to get a lot of chaos resistance here too. It's necessary to have at least positive resistance to this type of damage. Another piece of equipment where you can find a lot of maximum life and resistances is a belt. We would also recommend getting a copy with strength, chaos resistance, or various flask modifiers. Stygian Vice is the best base. An amulet may be the most expensive item on the list as its potential is nearly limitless. Aim for modifiers that would increase the level of all fire skill gems, maximum life, and fire multiplier. You can also craft a mod that reduces mana cost of skills. Rings are great sources of resistances. Try to get as much resistances here as you can afford. Extra maximum life is mandatory. As was the case with Amulet, you can craft the modifier that lowers the mana cost of skills. Flammability on hit is good to have, but it makes ring much more expensive and is not really needed. On each of the rare jewels, get a bonus to maximum life prefix and burning damage suffix. Other modifiers are less important. Having 1 or 2 large jewels would significantly improve your damage, but keep in mind that the good ones are very pricey. Look for no more than 8 passives and up to 3 of the listed notables. Fire damage over time medium cluster jewels are usually great, but avoid notables that affect ignite or ailment damage. Only burning damage is of use. Regular magic utility flasks are what we've settled on. Use a granite flask for extra armor, quicksilver flask for movement speed, sulfur flask for consecrated ground and damage, and a basalt or silver flask for armor or even better mobility. Their suffixes should increase your armor, movement speed, and reduce the effect of curses by 50%. Combined with consecrated ground you'll be hexproof. Also, get a mana or life flask with bleed removal. Scorching Ray, a channeling fire spell that you can deal burning damage with. The longer you scorch an enemy, the more damage it will receive, and it will also inflict exposure. The burning lingers for a bit. We've picked a divergent version to rotate faster. It increases clear speed. Link it with burning damage, efficacy, elemental focus, empower, and controlled destruction support gems. Searing Bond, much like Scorching Ray, deals burning damage. It is cast via totems that form damaging bonds between each other and the character. Link it with Swift Affliction, efficacy, multiple totems, elemental focus, and life tap if you struggle with mana. If not, burning damage support. Arcanist Brand is a brand that sticks to the enemies and triggers all linked to its spells each second. Link it with Flammability. This curse lowers the enemy's fire resistance, and Purifying Flame. It deals a bit of physical and fire damage while creating consecrated ground. It's used to apply combustion. We recommend a divergent version for more overall damage. Link it with combustion support so that igniting hits apply combustion, a debuff that lowers fire resistance. Linked skills also have an increased chance to ignite. Herald of Ash is used here for increased burning damage, spell fire damage, and to enhance clear speed. Determination adds and increases armor rating to reduce physical damage taken. Malevolence increases skill effect duration and grants more damage over time. Link them with Enlightened support so that linked skills reserve less mana. Vitality can be used here instead if you don't need it. Immortal Call consumes your endurance charges, which is essential due to Valakko's Keystone, and grants you a buff that reduces physical and elemental hit damage taken. Its duration is increased per endurance charge consumed. Flame Dash allows you to dash, leaving a trail of burning ground behind. Infernal Cry covers nearby enemies in ash to make them take increased fire damage. You could use it in crowded areas too, as such opponents will explode on death. Link them up with Arcane Surge support. Arcane Surge buff is used for an increased cast speed and mana regeneration rate. Keep this gem at a low level. Kill all 3 bandits in Act 2 and be rewarded with 2 additional skill points. You can pick nearly any major god, except Brine King. It's bad, but we've gone for Solaris for better bossing. You can face tank a lot of bosses with it so that you won't have to stop channeling the Scorching Ray. Minor gods too offer a lot of useful virtues. Soul of Ryslitha is good for flask charges and more life recovery from such flasks. Tukahama is interesting too, as you often stand still long enough to activate its bonus. The passive skill tree is where you can acquire nodes for increased maximum life and fire damage. These are the most important ones. In addition to that, get some spell block chance, mana reservation efficiency, and mana regeneration. The keystones we've chosen are Unwavering Stance, so that you can't get stunned, Iron Will for extra spell damage, and Glancing Blows to cap block chance. For masteries, get Life Mastery for 50 life or 15% increased life if you have no life mods on body armor, Fire Masteries for more effective fire exposure and life regeneration, and Mana Mastery for reservation efficiency. That is all we have to say about this build. Good luck with it, and see you in the next one.